Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the 700 Pelham Road podcast. We are finally back after a long hiatus.
It's been a while.
Been almost 2 months since we've been able to push out an episode. But we are back, and we are going to be back hopefully for good. Be honest, there's not too much to talk about this week. Um, Mostly just finish up spring sports, but we got really two big things to really talk about. So
Oh yeah.
I guess we'll go ahead and get it out of the way. We put another national championship in the trophy case.
Oh yeah. First one as an FBS school. Um, and no, it did not come from any of the big four. It did not come from what many people consider a traditional sport, but our women's bowling team. I mean, from the jump, they went out week after week and just kicked butt. And they wrapped up the season with an NCAA championship. So I mean, you can't get much better than that. Um, they turned around, I think, like a week later and went to the ITCs, the Intercollegiate Team Championships, or whatever it's called. Um, they ended up getting runner up, but I mean, they still are, NCAA national champions, and that is absolutely amazing to come in year one. Um, Obviously, already an established, amazing head coach. And, she brought a lot of the women with her from McKendree. But I mean, still, to make that move and to be in a conference with, some of the top bowling teams in the country and to come out not only on top in the conference, but, to win the NCAA, that's huge.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, we've talked about it over and over again. It all starts up front with the fact that Greg Seitz went out and was willing to put money down on a program that didn't exist and go out and hire the best coach in the country. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now we see the fruits of spending that money is we win a title. Um, and now we can say we're national champions. And I think the last program to win a national championship was Cornell, if I'm correct.
And I don't even know if that's technically a program or if that's a club sport. Um, if we go back to what we're sure of, I'm pretty sure it was football D2. Um,
Yeah, back in what, 92?
yeah. Or maybe I could be actually I could be wrong. I think maybe rifle has had some championships since then. I know we have a really good rifle team. Um, Gotta be honest, my bad. I don't keep up with them. So maybe they have had a national championship since then. But I don't know if cornhole counts as a program or if it's a club. But if we're being like for sure, you got to go all the way back to the D2 football national championship. Um, so either way, to have this NCAA championship,
Mm-hmm.
which I know the cornhole wasn't, cornhole's ACL, to have this NCAA national championship is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, going forward, now I'll admit I don't really know how to keep up with bowling recruiting or anything like that, but it'll be interesting to look at the turnover of the roster. Um, I don't know you,
Yeah.
but I watched I think the first session of the championship. Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I tried to watch. I think I was working during it, but pretty much every chance I had, I had my phone up, just kind of
yeah,
peeking at it. And it was insane. I mean, there were some periods where it was like we were down and it was, a pretty solid deficit. And you were thinking, okay, they're going to take it. It's whatever. And then our women just did not give up. They kept fighting, kept fighting, kept fighting. Um, and they just showed who they were, who they had been the whole season,
Yeah.
and ultimately came out on top.
I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing, what the future holds for the program because obviously, roster turnover aside, when you have a good coach, generally, even if you maybe lose talent, obviously coaching can develop players, but I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
it'll be really fun to see, where the program goes from here.
oh
Um,
yeah. I mean, like you said, anytime you lose talent, it always hurts. But I mean, for a coach with the resume and the respect and just the accolades that she has, for a woman coming out of high school or even looking to transfer, this is a dream destination. So not only do I trust her to be able to, not only do I trust Coach O'Keefe to be able to develop somebody as a freshman, but I also know she's just going to have that draw. She's going to have that pull for transfers, those high level recruits coming out of high school. And like you said, we don't necessarily, this is a totally new game for us. So we're not necessarily, up to speed on how to keep up with bowling recruits and whatnot. But I have no doubt that we're going to get the best of the best just simply because of being able to do what we did in year one and having the coach that we have.
yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, moving on to the other spring sports. We covered the end of basketball, which obviously neither program really had a great year. But baseball and
Disappointing on,
softball,
yeah.
baseball and softball also did not have as great of a year as they would like. Baseball, new coach coming in to replace Coach Case. Tough job to do because he is the program's all-time winning coach.
Yeah.
A lot of roster turnover, just tough season altogether. New conference as well, which I'm not making excuses, but I feel like they're
I
written
mean, it
in, so
was
we can accept them.
it was a much tougher conference. So
Yeah, and Conference USA is a good baseball conference.
yeah,
A lot of good
I
squad.
mean, all around for our spring sports, I think the biggest difference because with our spring sports, moving up to FBS didn't really change much. The way spring sports work, FCS, FBS, there really is no distinct line, so to speak. It all kind of meshes together. Um, but I think with us moving up and just being in a tougher conference all around, it was kind of a rough adjust. I wouldn't necessarily call it a wake up call because we knew, moving up, we're going to play tougher opponents. I just think it was a rough adjustment period. Just going because I mean, other than baseball, a lot of our teams didn't have super high turnover. So, just going from being used to, well, basketball did, sorry. But just going from being used to playing, the FCS schools and, playing that level and then jumping up, you're playing guys, that are looking to either cement themselves on the NCUSA or even try and get a shot at the Power 5 schools. So, I mean, it was just a tough adjustment period. And it's one of those where I fully trust all of our coaches to, right now is the off season for them. They're about to start getting into the nitty gritty. I trust all of them to, be sitting there, hitting the notebooks, hitting the film, hitting the recruiting trails, figuring out what works best for them, who's going to fit that scheme, and just trying to figure out the overall success for the program and the university going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things with baseball and softball, and I think us both being big baseball fans, it's I mean it's a tough sport under the best of circumstances. I live by the phrase the hardest thing in sports to do is to hit a fastball. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the second hardest thing to do is to hit a rise ball in softball. So, um, you know, you're going to have some tough years. Maybe we, as JSU fans, maybe aren't used to it because we've seen this squad go to the final game of a regional against the eventual national champions. Right?
Yeah.
We've gone to Oxford and nearly won the regional.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you hate to look at it and say, "Oh, well, we've done it in the past, so we should do it now." But it's easy to slip into that mindset. But at the same time, I trust Coach Beazer. I think he's a good coach. There's a reason that he was at an SEC school before this. He had earned it beforehand. I think he's another diamond in the rough where, maybe he's a good coach, just tough situation in Missouri. But, obviously we got a new year coming up, and I'm all for giving people passes. And Coach McGinnis, as I'm sure everyone is aware, Coach McGinnis has afforded herself about as many passes as one can have.
I mean, stadium and the street named after you. She's good.
Yeah, she's there. She ain't going nowhere. But no, it'll be all good. I think when it's all said and done, program's gonna be in good shape. I think you just need to have that adjustment year. Not everyone is gonna go 9-3 and win a and show the people that they're already at that level when they join a new conference. So
yeah, I at least from what it seems like, JSU fans are not hitting the panic button on our spring sports yet. And I hope they don't, because what we did in football was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Being your very first year in FBS, and then, going 9-3 and then winning the bowl game on top of that.
Yeah.
It does not happen. We were not even guaranteed a bowl game. We were the first program to ever win a bowl game in their first full year FBS. So, I'm glad they're not hitting the panic button on spring sports, because what we did in football is not the norm.
No.
And, how our spring sports went is not necessarily like super, super bad. Do we have built-in higher expectations just because of what our past success has been? Yes, but we also have to be realistic and acknowledge that we're playing tougher competition, and it's just going to take some time. And I hope our fans understand that. Obviously, we completely trust Seitz. He knows that. He's not going to jump the gun. He's not going to do anything rash. Because these coaches, they need time. Now that they're working with a totally different pool as far as recruits go, as far as transfers go. They're pretty much everything they knew is coaching, especially because other than baseball, all these coaches were here for FCS. Pretty much everything they knew is coaching, and their strategies and what to work with. They've completely changed. Well, maybe not completely changed, but they've changed a good bit. Considering now that we're FBS. And just, people are naturally going to want to be more inclined to come here now as opposed to when we were a lower school. So, just give it time. Let these coaches work their magic. If they were good at working, doing more with less, just imagine, what happens when the dust settles and, they get even more talent, even more riches. So any JSU fans out there worried about our spring sports, just wait. Give it a year. Give it 2 years. Next year may not be completely fixed either. Just be patient. Sit back. We're not dealing with the prime Nick Saban. I think I think the Nick Saban effect has tainted not only a lot of administrations but a lot of fans. They just expect immediate success when a coach steps in. So yeah, we just really have to be realistic. We have to sit back. We have to watch the progress, even if it's slower than what we want.
Yeah, for sure. And I think fortunately for being the school that we are, as my wife exits the room,
Yeah, you said the W word.
I said the W word. Still somewhat getting used to it, but
Hey, it's okay. Every now and then I slip up and almost say girlfriend, but I have a fiance now.
yes, you do. You have a fiance, which we'll get to in a minute. But no, fortunately, us being, Jacksonville State, you don't have those bandwagon casual fans that are here only, when we're on national TV and winning. Virtually every JSU fan is either a graduate or a family member of a graduate.
Or a townie.
Yeah, or they're just a resident. But so we've all seen the highs and the lows of every program over the years. I mean, even in the time that you and I've been in school, we've gone from going to Frisco to the national championship against North Dakota State to winning 5 games in football just 3 years ago before Rich Rod got here. So we've seen every program at its best and at its worst. So the good news is I think most of our fans will afford both Coach Beazer and Coach McGinnis as much patience as they need to get the job done. So
yeah, and I mean, Coach Harper has taken us to the big games twice.
Yeah.
One time you can put an asterisk next to it if you want, whatever. He's taken us twice. You can't help but to trust the man. Coach Petrie is one of the most determined, most passionate, most fiery coaches I've ever seen. If there's anybody that's going to turn that women's program around, it's him.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I am not worried about spring sports one bit. We very well could be, coming back here on the podcast next year talking about, all for being in the conference tournament and, being contenders. Or we could come back and talk about how they made some progress, but, maybe not exactly where we wanted to be. You never know. All four absolutely phenomenal coaches. And only time will tell.
Yep, for sure. Now, speaking of when Rich Rod got here a couple years ago, obviously we all saw the news a little less than a month ago. Rich Rod has been extended, I believe, through 2030.
Yeah.
Now, the details of the extension have not been released, so we don't know the exact numbers, whether or not he was raised or not. I imagine he was raised at least a couple $100,000 from the million.
With the 9-3 season in the bowl win, he got a raise.
Yeah, because with bonuses, he was at $1 million. So I'm sure that his base salary is up close to $1 million now. But we've got Rich Rod locked up for, it's 2024. So now the next 7 seasons he's on contract. Which is big for 2 reasons.
For everybody out there saying a contract only means so much, if a P5 comes calling, they can buy him out of it. Yes, we know. We are not stupid. We're not, super ignorant to, the business that is NCAA football. Obviously, if a P5 comes calling and he wants that opportunity, he's gone. More power to him. He's more than earned another shot, somewhere big if he wants it. But yeah, we're not ignorant to the fact that we can't keep him, if somebody else comes calling. We know it, but we are enjoying the fact that he has pretty much put pen to paper and done on paper officially what he said in his introductory press conference, that he's here for the long haul. So, we're just excited to see that play out in an official manner, whether or not that actually is the case going forward.
Yeah, and, when I look at I'm a big, when it comes to sports, I love the analytical side of it. So contracts to me are huge. Love looking into it. So looking at a contract for a guy at a school of this level to be extended, I'm not sure when his contract was originally going to end. I think it was next season.
I think he had either a 4 or a 5-year contract originally. Okay. So I think this might be a 5-year extension.
Okay, so 5-year extension. at a school of this level where we have one of the lowest operating budgets at the FBS level, and you extend a coach of this magnitude, a guy who has coached at Michigan, a guy who turned down the Alabama job before Nick Saban was offered. I mean, that's how high Rich Rod was in the coaching stratosphere, 15 years ago. It's big for one or two things. One, we have our coach locked up. He is clearly a winner. He's won a conference title and a bowl game in his first 2 seasons. And he's locked up for the next 7 seasons. But also, like you said, if an FBS team comes calling, we get all of that contract money back because the school inevitably that hires him will pay it.
Yep.
And with that money, you go hire another coach. Who knows who it'll be?
And honestly, depending on how, the rest of the seasons go that we do have with him, he could make Jacksonville State a very attractive and desirable spot for, a coach trying to rehabilitate, their resume, their look, whatever it is. Especially if the case for him is going back to a P5 school, because then at that point, he will have rehabilitated and revamped, what people think of him and how people view him. Because, before this, he was an assistant coach at ULM. So it's not like he came from a head coaching spot and took this job. He was an assistant at a G5 school, went down to an FCS school that was making the transition, and, has pretty much catapulted us to a level where nobody expected us to even be from the beginning. So if he were in the world where he were to leave, assuming, in order for him to leave, he has to make us look super good. We have to be looking amazing. And all that to say, he was already named in some head coaching searches for, lower P5 schools. If we turn around again and go 10-2, 11-1, undefeated bowl game win, of course, schools are going to come calling again, say he leaves. Just doing that in his first 2 seasons makes us look so good, and we will have so many solid coaching candidates, lined up out the door, just waiting to get their chance to say, hey, I continued or even, took this program to the next level of success. So, yeah, it's really this contract extension is a win-win for us in the sense that we either get our guy until 2030 or, we parlay him, building this foundation into, just next coach. And, who knows where we go from there.
Yeah. And, when it was first reported that he was taking the job, 2.5 years ago, the names that got thrown out for his assistants, like him, they were former Power 5 head coaches. We saw Kevin Sumlin's name floated for offensive coordinator. We saw Kevin Steele's name thrown out there for defensive coordinator. Like these were guys that have been head coaches and coordinators at the Power 5 level and done really, really well at it. Obviously Kevin Sumlin is responsible for Johnny Manziel, right? Kevin Steele, Auburn's defensive coordinator, Alabama's defensive coordinator, just a stud of a defensive mind. So even, just in the 24 hours from when he was offered to when he accepted the job, the program became immediately way more desirable. Now, yes, it helps that now we're an FBS program. You would have never gotten these hires if we weren't moving up. But at the same time, you also wouldn't be getting those hires if we were already a G5 that was in bad shape. If we were, like a San Jose State, and I don't want to crack on San Jose State because they're a solid team, but like you try and think of a G5 that has not won a lot of games, 4 or 5 games a year, just kind of straggling along. If we were in that shape, we wouldn't be getting the hires either. So that tells you already where our program was even before he took the job. People knew that they could win here.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of having the right guy to set the right foundation. So yeah, to piggyback off of you, I mean, if he leaves, who knows who we'll get? I mean, we could get. I mean, there are guys right now who have coached and won at Power 5 schools that aren't even they're not working right now, right? They're still making buyout money. Now I'm not going to float the redacted name.
Oh, don't even, because you said buyout money, and I immediately was like, don't you dare.
I'm not floating that name because I would never wish that evil on anyone.
Please no.
But there's a guy like no, but there's a guy like Dana Holgerson who's sitting out there. He was fired from Houston, and I mean he's just making buyout money. He's not a coordinator. He's not a QB coach. He's not even coaching high school ball, right? He's out there. There's there are a handful of guys coaching UFL who I'm sure would not mind the jump in, from UFL spring ball to Division One FBS college football. So, yeah. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying I want Rich Rod to leave. I don't think anyone is, but I recognize there is a future if he does, and this extension is the reason for it. So, I guess the next big news, and it kind of folds into what we were just talking about and where our program is. CFB 25 comes out in almost exactly 2 months.
And we're in the game. First time ever, you do not have to create a team to have Jacksonville State in the game. Well, I won't say first time ever because there was one of the NCAAs where FCS teams were in there. But there are no FCS teams in this game. But Jacksonville State is in the game because we are FBS. Of course, I will be pre-ordering. I'm still trying to decide if I want to do deluxe or if I want to get the MVP bundle. I'm not quite sure. I need to figure out if we can, import rosters from CFB to Madden.
Yeah, that's the only reason it's worth it.
But I'm at least getting deluxe. I hate the deluxe is digital only because that cover goes so hard. Mm-hmm. I really wish I could get my hands on a physical copy of that, which honestly, later on down the line, I may just buy it if they ever have a deluxe physical copy. I may just buy it just to have it. But yeah, JSU is in the game. You don't have to create anything. You don't have to do anything. Whenever you load that bad boy up, whether you pre-order and you get it 3 days early or you get it the day of or you get it later on down the line, you just fire that bad boy up and scroll through, go to the Jays. We'll be right there. I can't wait.
Not only are we in the game, but now there will no longer be QB number 10 at 6'1". Now, well, I say QB number 10. I can't even remember what number Logan wears. Whatever number Logan Smothers wears, you will be actually looking at Logan Smothers on the field in red and white, for which obviously if you're not 3 years old, if you weren't 3 years old when 14 came out, that's a big deal. And I stand by what I'm about to say, and it might qualify as bullying, but I think that anyone who didn't buy 14 when it came out, they should be required to put the entire roster in by hand the way we did.
Oh, God.
They should be required to know what we went through.
Honestly, having to do that back then of like, if you wanted to see your guy's name, you had to go through, hand type everything. If the attributes weren't right, you had to go and change every single thing. It was an absolute pain. Luckily for us, EA Sports was shady and all of the players looked like the player it was supposed to be. They just didn't have the name attributed to them. But yeah, no, just being able to fire up the game, and we're just assuming Logan Smothers opted in because judging on the numbers of return, I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody except for Arch Manning, pretty much everybody opted in. So I'm assuming, pretty much the entire JSU roster, when you fire it up, you'll see names. I know coaches are not included in this first one, so whenever you go to play, Rich Rod will not look like Rich Rod. I think there's some more negotiating they have to do with the coaches association or whatever it is. So it may not be until next year. I don't know if they're releasing every year or every other year or what, but whenever the next game drops, it might not be until then that we see official coaches on the sideline. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
It's going to be insane. And obviously, I'm sure everyone watching this has seen the trailer. So you know that the trailer is engine footage, not gameplay footage. But looking at the graphics, looking at a stadium, even as small as App State's, I'm really excited to see what Burgess Snow looks like in this game, especially with, I don't know if they sent in like the updated renderings of what the away stands are going to look like, or if EA took pictures of the old stadium. But either way, we're going to be playing in Burgess Snow, and hopefully we'll have the AKC uniforms.
Oh yeah,
and like I said, hopefully you'll have Logan Smothers dropping dimes.
If they don't have the AKC uniforms, I'm
driving down the Florida.
If they don't have AKC uniforms, I'm writing to somebody.
Yeah, that would be an all-time travesty on EA's part. But either way, this game is going to be phenomenal. I am fully prepared for the amount of money I'm going to have to spend to get a console and get just that one game. I'm fully prepared for that.
Luckily, I have a PS5 sitting right across from me. So I just have to drop the ungodly amount of money to get the game itself.
Yeah, I don't have.
And I have to be on good behavior until then. That way, when the game drops, I can put in an obscene amount of time, just absolutely going crazy. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, once I pre-order in those 3 days early access, I will take JSU to a championship within those 3 days. That's how many hours I'm about to put in on this game.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to have your brownie points in so that you get a little free time.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of brownie points, Jalen is engaged and I am married.
Oh yeah. I know most
part of the reason that we have not recorded since March 6th is that I got married and Jalen got engaged.
But yeah, I mean, I know most guys don't have an engagement ring, but I do. I also got this very cool watch. But yeah, this man over here, he got married, went off, did not touch Earth again for the next 2 weeks, and then turn around. I think a week after you got back, I got engaged. And dog, we have just been going, living life, going crazy. So of course we apologize for not being around, but also sometimes life is just we don't have any contractual obligations as far as this podcast goes. It's really just for fun. So sometimes if life comes up, we just kind of roll with it. And obviously those are two very big milestones where we truly just kind of wanted to disconnect and enjoy it. Luckily, we were both able to be there for each other's a huge milestone. So that was really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, just absolutely amazing moments and milestones for both of us within this time that we've been gone.
Yeah, it's been, I mentioned it off screen before we started recording that we may not even have our sponsorship anymore, just because we took so long off, which is that life happens. But either way, we're still grinding. We're still trying to give y'all as much content as we can. But we're certainly glad to be in the position we are because of the loved ones around us, including my wife, who was just throwing things at me, which is why I kept looking over to my left. But well, I guess we better preview the future of the podcast for the summer and then get into fall. We can't release any names yet because we're still working on nailing down dates. But we've got
We
some
already
big
know who
time
it
guests.
is.
We know who it is.
We already have confirmation that they agreed to be on the show. We just have to get dates nailed down, and we're not going to tell y'all until we have dates nailed down. So y'all can just sit in limbo. How about that?
Yeah, that you're going to have to struggle and scratch and claw your way to try and figure it out. But we do know, like Jalen said, we know that they said yes. We have confirmation from all three big time guests. They're big names.
JSU fans, you will know all three of them, and you will be excited. You'll get your chance to send in questions and whatnot. You'll want to send in questions. Just know that.
And also, just keep in mind how small the operation is on this podcast. Not only do we make no money, but we're both sitting here with a laptop and who knows how little money into our microphone equipment, hoping that our internet doesn't crap out. But these guests are big time.
Oh yeah.
But so it's really exciting. And I think the plan is once we have them nailed down, we will release one a month so that we have plenty of time to get in questions, get ready for fall and winter and spring. We're going to continue to work on more big name guests in the Jack State community. Obviously, we'll let y'all know those in due time. Another one, do we announce or do we wait?
We can announce.
All right. He's not on this episode.
But it might not be on the next, depending on when we record.
Yeah, we're figuring out the exact timeline of when he starts, but we do have a third member joining 700 Pelham Road Podcast, and his name is Kevin Lunsford, good buddy of ours from school. Some of you may know him, many of you won't, but you'll meet him here soon enough once he gets everything figured out with work and everything. But we will have a new full-time co-host coming on to join us, which will be huge because one of the big issues for Jalen and I is when one of us can't record, we have to decide if we want to do a solo episode or not. And more often than not, that answer has been no. Well, now one of us can't, the other two can still record. So we can keep pumping out episodes, get content in left and right, and really plan this podcast a little bit better. Hopefully, through this fall, really turn it into a full-time operation for us that we can turn into some great content for y'all. So
I know this fall we are also trying to, build off of the momentum we got from getting the media passes for the bowl game. We want to, try and get some press box passes, some media passes, for home games, try our luck for any of the away games we travel to. And of course, if we go to a bowl game again, we'll try our best to be there. And then, depending on what life is looking like come spring, it should be a little bit more chill this time around. Depending on what life looks like in the spring, possibly trying to get, some press credentials for some spring sports too. So yeah, we're really trying to, dive into this thing, and just actually, give the fans as much insight and as much of a viewpoint behind the scenes, as we can, because we acknowledge that it's pretty cool for us to be able to, have an opportunity like we did for the bowl game, and we want to do nothing less than share it with all of you.
Absolutely. Now, getting into the fall, season 2 will start officially. Season 2 of 700 Pelham Road Podcast will start in August, around the time that we started recording last year. Got to nail down the date on exactly when we want the season to officially start, but generally, probably about a month before the football season will start, we'll start to preview football season, start to look into basketball a little bit, and really get ready for that. But the future is definitely bright for the podcast.
Yep.
And kind of like Jalen said, we started it for fun, really on a whim. And it's taken on a whole life of its own. And I assure you, we never thought that we, within 4 months of starting this, would have press credentials for the Superdome, and be recognized, by a few players, be recognized by our athletic director, by coaches, even being kind of having a good idea of who we are. So we're certainly, we're blessed to be here, and hopefully, hopefully this next year we'll bring y'all even more good content. So,
and speaking of the fall, be on the lookout. Leading into football season, we will be teaming up with any of the fellow CUSA football podcasts. I don't think there's one for every team, but any of the teams that have a football podcast in CUSA, we're teaming up. We're doing a roundtable with all of those podcasts. Whenever we get dates and details nailed down, it'll be all over the Twitter page. I know for sure they want to do a season preview, and I know they talked about doing a roundtable episode periodically during the season too. So that'll be something cool to look forward to. You'll get to hear our perspective, as well as a lot of the other amazing people that we interact with on Twitter. If you see us interacting with other fan bases, Twitter pages and whatnot, a lot of those guys, you'll be able to hear them or see them depending on whatever method we use for that roundtable. But yeah, it'll be awesome just to talk some smack, but also just try and grow CUSA as a whole.
Absolutely, yeah, it's going to be fun. And I think one of the nice things is getting to connect with some of these other guys who really just love their school and want to talk about it. I think that's the brilliance of being in a smaller conference like this, is those of us who cover these schools, we're not doing it because they're big schools, right? We're not covering it because it's Ohio State, right? We went to these schools, right? We're graduates, and we want them to do well in everything. So, but yeah, definitely going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that a lot, especially if some of the guys that we've spoken to already in the past are going to be on it. So, So, all right. Well, with that, you got anything else for this one?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think I do either. In that case, from the 700 Pelham Road Podcast, we can officially say we have wrapped up spring sports and we are moving on into the summer. So from the boys here at the podcast, from the Sidelines Jack State account, we are signing off, and we will see y'all here in hopefully just a few weeks.
See ya.